Thank you for watching this special edition of KPBS News. I'm Maya Trabulsi. And this week brought new stimulus, a slight easing of public health orders, and deeper economic pain as San Diego and the nation deal with COVID-19. At the national level, Congress passed a new financial aid package worth nearly $500 billion, and much of that money will replenish a small business relief fund. 26 million Americans have lost their jobs since March, with another 4 million filing claims this week. Locally, San Diego eased its restrictions on parks. It's a small concession as local leaders say people are doing their part to stay at home and maintain social distancing. Now, more than a month into the crisis, we're seeing which communities are being affected the most. KPBS reporter Joe Hong examines the disproportionate impact and the response that will be needed.
When San Diego County health officials first released the numbers of COVID-19 cases broken down by zip code 3 weeks ago, La Jolla, Hillcrest, and Normal Heights were at the top of the list. However, officials urged residents not to read too much into the data because so little testing had been done.
To me personally, that information does not mean very much.
But since then, the number of cases has jumped in South and East County zip codes, including Chula Vista, National City, Southeast San Diego, and El Cajon. And health experts say these numbers do matter.
I do think that your zip code is an important determinant of your health, perhaps more important than your genetic code.
Maria Rosario Araneta is a professor of epidemiology and the assistant dean of diversity at UC San Diego's medical school.
So I think it's important to look at the demographic characteristics and if you look at the mean incomes of these neighborhoods, their average incomes are less than the average in San Diego, certainly less than the average incomes in La Jolla.
Araneta said lower-income communities have higher rates of pre-existing conditions, greater housing density, and more reliance on public transportation, which could mean higher rates of COVID-19 infection.
I think that a lot of the disparities that you see throughout the United States are really based on income inequalities.
Mary Salas is the mayor of Chula Vista, home to zip codes with some of the highest case counts in the county.
Here in the city of Chula Vista, we even see the disparities within zip codes. So in some of our more affluent neighborhoods, our numbers are just as low or lower than other parts of the area. But if you look at zip codes like 91911 and 10, that is the west side of Chula Vista. 11 especially is lower in socioeconomic status.
No one should be surprised by these disparities, says Diana Ross. She's the executive director of Mid-City CAN, a community advocacy group in City Heights.
What this pandemic has really done is laid bare the disproportionalities that existed prior to COVID-19.
Ross says this current crisis is an opportunity to ask tough questions about why certain neighborhoods of San Diego thrive while others don't.
It's an opportunity to deep dive and look for policy solutions and systemic solutions to why do we have a housing crisis to begin with? Why do we have disproportionate health outcomes for Black and Brown communities? Why do we have incarceration?
In the short term, experts like Araneta say these early numbers give health agencies the chance to plan better for the coming months.
But I think it's worthwhile to look at these targeted zip codes as an opportunity to identify where should screening, including screening of asymptomatic individuals, should be implemented.
Joe Hong, KPBS News.
And for a closer look at your neighborhood, you go to our website, kpbs.org, and there you can find a full list of coronavirus cases by zip code. San Diego's South Bay cities are seeing higher volumes of COVID patients, and now they're taking new steps to curb the spread. National City and Chula Vista residents must wear face coverings while in essential businesses. Imperial Beach hopes to implement the same order in the coming days, and Chula Vista Mayor Mary Casillas Salas says they're also putting pressure on the county to increase testing in the area to better track the virus.
We want to know when the testing is coming, and we want to know where it's being administered and what population is being served.
Other South Bay officials will meet with the county next week about more testing for the area. Public health officials have created a task force to expand testing to vulnerable groups, including low-income communities like many in the South Bay. With thousands of San Diegans laid off and out of work because of the pandemic, a local grocer is stepping up to help feed those impacted. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman introduces us to the owner of Valley Farm Markets.
One thing that's kind of came up is that, a lot of parents are home with their kids, and some people can't afford some food to feed their families.
Valley Farm Market owner Derek Marceau's campaign to feed those in need started last month.
Right now, we're in the process of cooking a couple 100 pounds of chicken. We're going to do steamed veggies. We're going to do some salads.
Then it continued to grow.
The outreach of the community and everything that's happened has been absolutely amazing. We've been able to feed 1,500 people, and we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. Awesome. We've done over 2,000 people that we've been able to feed.
And now they've served over 3,000 people. Derek is paying for the meals out of his own pocket and through donations. He grew up here in the East County area and says when he was a kid, if this outbreak were to hit, his family might have needed some of that meal assistance. Now he just wants to give back.
Behind it was just, the thought of what happens if both parents lose their jobs and have the kids at home. There's no reason for anyone to go without food. And we're blessed to be in a position where we have an amazing staff and amazing community that's bought in, and we're able to, give those people some groceries and some meals so they don't have to, be as scared during this pandemic.
People can sign up to get a meal or donate at valleyfarmmarkets.com. Marceau and his team prepare the meals for pickups on Wednesdays and Saturdays at his Spring Valley store. He's made it a point not to publicize the pickups.
I don't want anyone to feel weird coming to get help. You shouldn't feel ashamed of it. This isn't anything anyone saw coming. So to allow them to feel comfortable, we got people that come every time and pick up meals, and that's what it's for.
Meanwhile, inside his stores, Marceau says business is up.
Find everything all right in the store? I did.
Gross sales are up, but with that comes a lot of different added costs that people don't understand.
For one, he has cleaning crews coming in every night.
And sanitizes the whole store. We don't take this lightly. We give gloves. We spend a ton of money on masks, gloves, sanitizer, anything that we can to make sure we're protected and safe.
Valley Farms is known for its high-quality meats. Marceau says he's working to keep shelves stocked as food prices are constantly changing.
A lot of different meat prices fluctuate, go up and go down, and so you're not really sure, do I raise prices, do I drop prices? So we're trying to just kind of feel out the whole industry right now.
As long as there's a need, Marceau says he'll keep donating meals.
You want to find your substance, and my substance isn't a monetary value. My substance is something that touches the soul, and so if I can find that and it helps me there, that feeds me, that gives me the fire to continue to do the positive things. And my team's been amazing to buy into that, and they feel the same way, so we're just going to keep doing it as long as it's needed.
How's it going, man?
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A small sign of progress this week as San Diego lifted some of its restrictions on parks. The limited reopening allows people access to neighborhood parks for walking and jogging. Family units can be together. Otherwise, people are expected to follow social distancing rules. Mayor Kevin Faulconer says he likes what he sees so far.
We have our police officers driving by checking to make sure people are doing the right thing, and San Diegans are. In a lot of respects, I'm not surprised about that because this region, this city has taken this very, very seriously since the very beginning. The reason we've had the progress that we've had is because San Diegans are doing the right thing. And I think San Diegans understand we don't want to give back those gains. We don't want to go backward.
And parking lots and basketball courts remain closed. Coastal cities are working on a regional plan to reopen beaches countywide. They say the goal is to do so soon, but a date has not yet been announced. With most San Diegans in quarantine at home, it feels different out there. There are fewer cars and more people are out walking, jogging, or cycling. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says advocates want the city to adapt its streets to this new reality to prevent both collisions and the spread of COVID-19.
It's just been a lot more easy. more calm, just more peaceful.
Anne King-Conchaldi is riding her bike more often these days, and she's not alone. She's noticed more people in her neighborhood of North Park biking, walking, and jogging. She says with gyms, beaches, and some parks closed, people are looking for ways to stay active and get some fresh air, not to mention fend off the cabin fever.
And now that there's less cars on the street, it definitely is just more enjoyable. You can go at a slower pace. We, sometimes we'll kind of zigzag through the side streets now instead of just taking one straight route and, get there quickly, like it was before. Now we just kind of get to enjoy the roads.
Bike shops are also seeing more business, too. Dan Zapkowski is owner of Pacific Beach Bikes. He says he's seen a flood of new customers, many of them young adults looking for new ways to exercise, and parents who want to ride with their kids but don't have bikes of their own.
And then we're also seeing a huge uptick in old bikes that have been sitting around for, 5-10 years. I had a guy bring a bike from storage. He's like, it's been in storage for like 10 or 15 years, It's just needed a total overhaul. We got it in and out within a week, so he was real happy. It saved them money versus buying a new bike.
Last week, representatives from 12 different advocacy groups co-signed a letter to Mayor Kevin Faulconer asking him to make changes to local streets during the pandemic. They want pedestrian signals at intersections to be made automatic so people don't have to risk spreading germs by touching crosswalk buttons. And on some streets, they want the city to cut vehicle lanes or parking so pedestrians and cyclists can have more room for social distancing. Andy Hanshaw, executive director of the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition, says San Diego needs to catch up to other cities.
We started to see several cities across the country implement slow street initiatives or networks almost instantly or very swiftly to alleviate the similar problem that we were having here.
Those cities include Oakland, San Francisco, Denver, Minneapolis, and Boston. La Mesa recently made some pedestrian cross signals touchless and automatic. Faulconer is working on a plan in response to the letter, but hasn't made an announcement yet. Hanshaw says the pandemic is providing an opportunity to help more people experience the benefits of safer, quieter streets.
When we come through this and more people have understood sort of what's possible, I think understanding the bigger picture for the climate crisis we're in, and having the opportunity for safer streets and fewer deaths, will hopefully be realized and understood more.
In the meantime, Hanshaw says one of the most encouraging things is seeing families bike together.
It really warms your heart and it really makes you think, it's a really sort of important time together. And I think being outdoors, being together and having a safe environment to do that makes you feel better about doing that is what we're seeing. And I think it's great.
Back at the bike shop, Dan Zapkowski says he also hopes people stick with their bikes, and when the need for strict social distancing is over, that they ride some of San Diego's most popular routes, like the Boardwalk or the Mission Bay Path when they reopen.
I hope that people will get to enjoy the same things that I get to do when I get to ride my bike on the Boardwalk. You can pick up a bike for a couple $100, go grab a sunset, and I guarantee you're going to come home with a smile on your face. Absolutely. It's one of the best things ever, I think.
Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Local parents are getting prepared for the new normal when it comes to their child's education. This is video from a tech distribution event this week in Claremont. Families were picking up laptops, tablets, and other devices needed for distance learning. The San Diego Unified School District has spent the past few weeks launching its program. Governor Newsom says tech companies are providing devices for 70,000 California students. And starting Monday, it will no longer be a soft launch. Graded coursework resumes for the county's largest school district. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong has more on what families can expect instruction to look like in the coming weeks.
After 3 weeks of a soft launch, San Diego Unified School District is ready to begin graded online instruction.
This is the biggest challenge public education has faced in a generation. And our schools and our students are rising to meet this challenge.
Superintendent Cindy Martin said the district has distributed 500,000 meals and more than 47,000 Chromebooks since the soft launch began. Teachers have also participated in more than 13,000 hours of professional development.
We're also starting to see the results of these efforts because close to 90%, 88.6% of all of our students have connected to school during the soft launch period.
Students' grades will not be penalized during this time, but online learning will look different depending on the teacher.
Grace and flexibility are very critical at this moment.
Teachers Union President Keisha Borden said it'll be crucial for educators to adapt to the needs of students and their families.
I want to remind all of us, our educators, parents, principals, that this is a time to support each other as we all wrestle with what it means to teach without a classroom, without the resources and tools and relationships that make up the very fabric of our schools.
And while district officials feel prepared to meet the short-term challenge of distance learning, the long-term impact of the pandemic will likely be devastating, according to School Board Vice President Richard Barrera.
And by the time we expect in probably August or September that the governor and the state of California are able to clarify what the impact of this economic downturn has been to our tax revenues, we are going to see the greatest hit to the public school system that we've ever seen in the history of this district.
Through the rest of the school year, the district will continue serving meals at more than 20 schools in the district. For a full list of locations, go to kpbs.org. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
Many doctors, nurses, police officers, and other essential workers still need child care. So San Diego County has allowed daycare providers to stay open only for those workers. But KPBS investigative reporter Claire Trageser found the county isn't always enforcing these rules, and some essential workers are on their own.
Like many parents of young children, Julia Najera and Sean Starr are trying to figure out how to work from home while caring for their 4-year-old son. He was in daycare, but he was kicked out because Sean Starr is a nurse.
Well, once they found out that I'd be taking care of COVID positive patients at the hospital, as most nurses are right now, they asked us to keep our son home the entire month of April.
This isn't how it's supposed to work. San Diego County, in its stay-at-home order, allows for daycares to only stay open to care for children of essential workers, no one else. In this case, the opposite happened. Starr's son couldn't go, but the daycare was still open for non-essential workers, according to the couple. Starr didn't want to provide the name of their daycare.
The only reason they were allowed to stay open was to provide care for essential workers. And yet they were discriminating against probably one of the only essential workers that were still using their services, but staying open for all the other kids. So they were doing the exact opposite of what they were supposed to be doing.
We're actually required to only accept our children from essential worker and families.
Holly Weber owns and runs Magic Hours Preschool in Mira Mesa, and she is following the county rules. Children of non-essential workers are no longer allowed at her daycare. Though she says no one is checking up on her.
They're not requiring that we regulate that or verify it in any way. We just happen to know our families and what they do for a living.
Weber says it's very difficult to stay open right now, but it's important to her.
It's what we do. We are a family that takes care of families. And we take care of those children because their parents need us to help them with that. It would be much more difficult to close the doors and discontinue the only option that parents may have.
The dilemma is obvious. Essential workers like doctors, nurses, police officers, and grocery store clerks need someone to care for their young kids. But that means the daycares that serve these families could be hotbeds for spreading the coronavirus.
It's very hard to control young children and keep them socially spaced apart, for sure. It's impractical for most very young children to be wearing masks the way the rest of us are. It's very hard to teach them and get them to wash their hands. All of the things that could be done to minimize infection are just extra challenging.
He says the large majority of children aren't getting sick from COVID-19, but they can still spread the disease.
Some people have no symptoms at a time when they're contagious for this infection, and children maybe do that even more than adults do. So you can have the best of intentions and planning not to send your child to the daycare when they're sick, but by the time they're sick, it may be too late. They've already been contagious at the daycare 1 or 2 or 3 days before they got sick. And then, of course, all the other children at that daycare have the potential to get sick, and then they go home, and then it's a cascade from family member to family member.
Ideally, Dr. Sawyer says each family of an essential worker would have individual childcare at home. But he knows that's not an option. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
Tribute to San Diego's healthcare workers. Dozens of pilots took to the skies on Friday as a way to say thanks to those who are treating COVID-19 patients. More than 24 planes flew in formation over hospitals across San Diego County. Some carried banners and performed stunts. This is happening across the country. The military's Blue Angels and Thunderbirds will perform similar flyovers in cities across America in the coming weeks. The Marines are grappling with how much to clamp down during the outbreak of coronavirus. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says everything from testing to haircuts are up for debate.
For the last few weeks, the Marines have canceled joint exercises. Marines are wearing masks. There is a stay-at-home order at Camp Pendleton to limit movement similar to the state of California. But the barbershops remain open. Colonel Jeff Holt is the deputy commander for Marine Installations West.
The image of the Marine also is to look sharp in uniform. And we are currently have the authority to continue the barbershop operations. Each installation commander has been decentralized and offered that.
The barbershops remain open despite a public rebuke by Secretary of Defense Mark Esper last week during a Pentagon briefing with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
And say, what is going on? What don't you guys understand? If you need to, suspend haircuts, right? For whatever period of time.
The comment was directed to Camp Pendleton after a video appeared online, but the barbershops remain open.
And our commandant allows us to continue to do haircuts, and it's more than just appearance. There's also a hygiene aspect to that, but we have to protect ourselves when getting haircuts.
Despite barbershops being closed on Naval Base San Diego and throughout California, the Marines put out a video showing how they continue to cut hair with gloves and masks. Holt says they've had a handful of Marines test positive for the virus at Camp Pendleton, though he wouldn't give the exact number, saying the rate is lower than surrounding communities. Most other non-essential services have been shut down on the base. So far, they have not laid off civilian staff. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
California put out a call for volunteers this week, and Governor Gavin Newsom says he's seen a big response.
Over 22,000 people just in the first day signed up and went on that site. And I just want to thank all of you that did do that, and all of you that are thinking about it. Just remind you, californiansforall.ca.gov.
The website launched this week and matches people with volunteer opportunities in their area based on their interest. Options include volunteering at food banks, delivering meals to seniors, tutoring, and making masks. Again, the website is californiansforall.ca.gov. Some residents in City Heights are making sure that excess fruits and vegetables are getting to those who need it most. KPBS reporter Max Riverland-Nadler has the story.
Lemons, grapefruits, oranges, and other fruits are beginning to pile up in San Diego backyards. So starting last week, the El Cajon Boulevard Business Improvement Association began to organize a now weekly fruit swap, where neighbors can drop off their fruit, and those in need during the pandemic can walk, drive, or bike to pick it up. Beryl Foreman works for the El Cajon Boulevard BIA and helps organize the swap.
During this pandemic, when people have a much greater need, we think that, one, very simple approach to that would be to give them free food, free fruit that is available, throughout San Diego, growing in people's yards. It's something that people can offer, give back to the community, and very well received also as well.
From 10 to 12, neighbors are invited to drop off food to be repackaged into separate bags for pickup between 12 to 2. But with colorful signs offering free fruit, drivers and passerby alike are taking advantage of the free fruit, which is ready to go almost as soon as people drop it off. Edward Hayter is the owner of Mama's Bakery in North Park. He says his restaurant is operating at 30% of capacity right now, so he has found time to volunteer in the community. He's been going up to North County to source fruit for the swap.
So I went to Escondido, picked up some avocados and lemon last week and oranges. This week I got some onions, carrots, avocado, and lemons. It's a good feeling, and I don't mind getting involved any time of day with something like this. I get called for, I'll step right up to the plate and deliver.
Beverly, who declined to give her last name, found out about the swap online this morning.
Lemons, oranges, some cactus, which I've never had, but I'm going to learn to cook it.
The fruit swap takes place every Wednesday at the fair at 44 on 44th Street and El Cajon Boulevard. In City Heights, Maxwell Nadler, KPBS News.
KPBS is covering COVID-19 on all platforms. Just go to kpbs.org for all of our local stories and click on the Tracking COVID-19 link. That's on our homepage, and you can get a list of recent stories. You can also get regular updates on our KPBS podcasts. That's all for this special edition of KPBS News. For all of us here at KPBS, I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thank you for joining us, and stay safe.